The rain that changed everything. The rain was relentless, drumming steadily against the rooftops, streets, and trees. It blurred the lines of the horizon, transforming the park into a misty, dreamlike place. Beneath the sprawling branches of an old oak tree, Luna stood, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. She wasn't shivering because of the cold, her coat was thick enough for that, but because of the memories flooding back. The familiar crunch of footsteps on the wet gravel reached her ears. She turned to see Max approaching, his tall frame silhouetted against the dim light of the street lamp. He was holding an umbrella, its edges dripping, and in his other hand, he carried a bouquet of flowers. "You're late," Luna said, her voice flat but tinged with hurt. Max paused a few steps away, his face clouded with guilt. "I know. I got caught up at work." Luna's lips twisted into a bitter smile. "Work? Of course. It's always work." "I'm sorry," he said, but the words felt hollow even to him. He took a cautious step closer, the umbrella shielding them both from the rain. "Why did you ask me to come here, Luna? You could have called if it was so urgent." "I wanted to see you in person," she replied, her eyes scanning his face. She didn't know what she was looking for, remorse, perhaps, or understanding. "There are things I need to say, things I can't explain over the phone." Max sighed and adjusted his grip on the bouquet. "All right, I'm here." "What's so important?" Luna hesitated for a moment, the words catching in her throat. She had rehearsed this conversation countless times, yet now, standing in front of him, it felt so much harder. "We need to stop pretending, Max," she finally said, her voice trembling. "Pretending?" he echoed, his brows furrowing. "What are you talking about?" She took a deep breath, her gaze steady despite the tears threatening to spill. "Pretending that we can fix this. That everything is okay when it's not. That we're still us." Max's jaw tightened, and he shook his head. "Luna, don't do this. I know we've had our problems, but we can work through them. We've been through worse. This isn't like before," she said, her voice breaking. "This time, it's different. I can't keep living like this, Max. For my sake. For our son's sake." The mention of their son made Max's shoulders slump. He stared at the ground, the rain pooling around his shoes. "So, what? You're giving up on us? Just like that?" "No," she said firmly, her tone cutting through the sound of the rain. "I'm not giving up. I've been fighting for us, Max. But I can't fight alone anymore." His eyes flicked up to meet hers, and for a moment, the vulnerability in them reminded her of the man she had fallen in love with. "Luna, I know I've made mistakes. I know I haven't always been there when you needed me. But I can do better. I will do better." She shook her head, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I've heard that before. So many times. And every time, I believed you. I wanted to believe you. But nothing changed. You didn't change." "I didn't know how," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's not an excuse," she said, her tone softening slightly. "Max, I loved you. I still care about you, but love isn't enough. Not when there's no trust. No respect." He stepped closer, desperation creeping into his voice. "Luna, please. Don't do this. For our son, if not for us. He needs both of us." "And he'll have both of us," she replied, her voice steady. "But not together. I can't stay in a relationship where I feel invisible, where I'm constantly second-guessing everything. He deserves to grow up seeing what a healthy relationship looks like, even if that means his parents aren't together." Max looked away, his hands tightening around the bouquet. The flowers were beautiful, bright yellow tulips, her favorite, but they felt like a meaningless gesture now. "I don't know what to say," he murmured. "You don't have to say anything," Luna said. "Just listen. Really listen. For once." He nodded slowly, his gaze returning to her. "I've been trying to hold this family together for so long," she began, her voice thick with emotion. "I made excuses for you, told myself you were just busy, stressed, tired. But the truth is, you chose to put everything else ahead of us. And every time you did, a little piece of me broke." Max's throat tightened, but he said nothing. "I wanted so badly for us to work," Luna continued. "I wanted to believe that you'd change, that things would get better. But they didn't. And now, I've reached my breaking point. I can't do this anymore, Max. I can't keep waiting for something that's never going to happen." The rain fell harder, the drops splashing against their feet and soaking into the earth. Max stared at her, his mind racing. He wanted to argue, to beg, to promise her the world, but he knew it wouldn't make a difference. "What about him?" he finally asked, his voice cracking. "Our son. What happens to him?" "He'll be with me," Luna said, her tone gentle but firm. "You'll still see him, of course. I would never keep him from you. But I'll be the one raising him, day in and day out. He needs stability, Max. And I can't give him that if I'm constantly trying to fix what's broken between us." Max closed his eyes, the weight of her words sinking in. When he opened them again, there was a flicker of determination in his gaze. "Luna, I know I've failed you. I know I've failed him. But I want to make it right. Please, give me one more chance." She shook her head, her expression pained. "I've given you so many chances, Max. This isn't about punishment or revenge. It's about doing what's best for everyone. And that means letting go." The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the steady patter of rain. Max stared at her, searching for something, anything, that would change her mind. But all he saw was resolve. "I never wanted it to end like this," he said quietly. "Neither did I," Luna replied. "But sometimes, endings are necessary. Sometimes, they're the only way to start anew." She took a step back, her hand brushing against the rough bark of the tree. "Take care of yourself, Max. And take care of him. He needs you, even if I don't." With that, she turned and walked away, her figure fading into the mist. Max watched her go, his heart heavy with regret. The bouquet slipped from his fingers, landing in the mud with a soft thud. As the rain poured down, he stood there, alone under the oak tree, the weight of his mistakes pressing down on him. He had lost her, truly lost her, and there was no going back. But in the midst of his sorrow, a spark of determination flickered. He couldn't fix the past, but he could shape the future. For his son. For himself. And so, as the rain continued to fall, Max made a silent vow to be better. To do better. Not for Luna, but for the boy who needed him to be the man he should have been all along. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others. Your support helps us keep creating valuable content. Thank you.